Hello everyone, my name is Hu-Kyung Lee in EV Oil Company in South Korea. Today I explain to you about the global electric vehicle market trend and challenges. Now I start the presentation. First of all, I will shortly introduce myself and my companies. EV Oil Company established in 2018 and my former company is the Robert Bosch Korea Automotive Aftermarket Division and I started the electric vehicle safety training at that time. This is my training certifications from QB Ryland, QB Shoot, and NFPA. This is one of the examples of my activities with my local and global partners. And I attended many electric vehicle events with my local and global partners as well. My business area is mainly for the training and consulting and providing the electric vehicle related services. For about the training, I train the people, like the general persons and some kind of technicians or engineers, and even the firefighters, like first responders. In South Korea, we have a high voltage safety training electric vehicle training center. In here, me and another main trainers have trained many people about the high voltage system and how to dealing and how to repair it. Some example for the high school students and example for the firefighters. And we provide the online training contents as well and providing the PPE, personal protective equipment. This is an example of the test equipment and testing devices. Especially for the Thailand market, I have been visited the Thailand market many times and support some kind of the smart city project and e-mobility project as well. In Honam University in South Korea, I have some MOU with Thailand Kasasan University. And based on this MOU, I had some safety training in this April and the last December. This is some examples of the training in the Thailand. And this is a Untitled company who are famous dealer and manufacturer in Thailand, located in Bangkok, and there is a training center. We're gonna try to discuss to set up the high voltage safety trainings in here, around in the end of this year. For about the global EV market trend, I explained to you, and I can say to you the most of the information in here is come from the Global Electric Vehicle Outlook 2022 issued by the IEA. So until now, there are big sales increase. So sales of the electric vehicle doubled in 2021 from the previous year to a new record of 6.6 million. When you considering about the 2012, there was just 120 electric vehicles in the worldwide. When you compare with the 2012, now the numbers very huge and fast increase. So now we can say that nearly 10% of the global car sales were electric in 2021. And when you compare with the 2019, it was 4 times increase. And there are some reasons why the numbers are increasing so fast. Number one is a sustained policy support. So each government and the countries are leading this kind of policies to sustain and providing some public subsidy and incentive programs, especially for the electric vehicle, like a tax and the custom taxes and the import taxes, something like that, and even the subsidy programs. And in some countries already announced that the internal combustion engine sales ban from 2030 or 2035. And more electric vehicle electrifications now announced by the automakers, and the car makers have some more plan to electrify their big fleets. So we can say that even in there's a many and huge numbers, we need to learn and we need to focus up the two sales keep rising, and we need to focus up and support the charging infrastructure and the heavy duty vehicles. And we should know that electrifying transport helps us address air pollution and the oil import dependency and the climate change. You know that electric vehicles not 100% eco-friendly, but absolutely it can help this kind of the situation. So that's why we push the electric vehicles. And when the numbers increase, we need to focus on its critical minerals as the battery market expanded, like nickel, cobalt, mangan, and the other things. These are very rare materials, and the costs will be increased. So we need to consider about this kind of materials. So to keep this kind of the good markets, there are 5 recommendations. First one is that maintain and adapt support for electric cars, like a subsidy and the incentive programs and the others. And we need to focus on the heavy duty markets also. You know, then during the COVID situation, there are many heavy duty trucks and logistics. So there would be big market, and the electrification is much wide in globally. So we need to focus up. And third one is the promote adoption in emerging and developing economies. That means in the Vietnam and Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, the emerging market and the APEC area is very good potential. So we need to focus up and expand electric vehicle infrastructures and the smart grids to charging properly for the electric vehicle or battery swapping system. We need to consider and ensure and secure, resilient, and sustainable EV supply chains are required to manufacturing and supply the electric vehicle in the market properly. So in this graph, we can see here is the electric vehicle car stocks from 2010 to 2021. You can see the global number one market is the China. Yeah, definitely China. And after that, there is an European market and the United States market, and the other market is next. And you can see in their market, there is a BEV, battery electric vehicle, and the PHEV, plug-in hybrid vehicle are also included. So most of the customers are familiar of the electric drive who buy those vehicles and depend on the environment. In this graph and picture, you can see the China lead the electric vehicles, leading the electric vehicle market, and the European is the number 2, and the United States number 3. Especially in European market, you can find out the numbers of BEV and PHEV are almost same. You can see the PHEV and BEV are almost same. And the China market and the US market, the BEV numbers is much higher than plug-in hybrid. And we can find out that the Netherlands and Sweden and Norway, there are very huge amount of the electric vehicle, and the market share is, especially in the Norway, almost 90% electric vehicle market share. Also, you can see the major areas keep increasing. Even the COVID situation, the major big market is getting increased, the electric vehicles. And in this graph, you can see the total available electric vehicle car models are up to 450 in 2021. and that's mostly from the SUVs. So if you can see the graphs in here, the numbers of the model is up to 500 like now, like this, and it is expected that more models is coming out in the globally in the 2022, and there are many kind of the selection could be possible for the customers, and most of the vehicles are SUV in the major three area. In this graph, you can see the electric car sales sparked in the emerging markets in 2021. You can see that there is the most number one vehicle is the SUV type. It depends on the situation and the culture and the area. And for example, like Thailand, there are some pickup trucks and SUVs populated in Indonesia and the Philippines and the other market as well. And if you see the emerging market like Asian area, the Asian is the most number one emerging market in the globally, and the Eastern Europe is very close to the Western Europe, where the electric vehicle now populated much, so that there are two areas has big potential, and there could be some huge increase is expected in the near future. And if you see this red graph, you can see there are not enough models especially in the south, in the APEC area. So it can be expected when the electric vehicle market is getting populated in the near future in this area like Vietnam and Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, then the huge market will be expected. And especially for the like jeepney, tuk-tuk, and the two-wheel bikes are very huge in this area. So the next few years and this area, the electric vehicle potential is very big. That's why we're gonna try to make some consideration about this market, how we can make some synergies in here. Besides of the passenger electric vehicle car, light commercial vehicle, HCV are now one of the important sections as well as for the commercial purpose and the logistics purpose during COVID situation. It is expected that the numbers of HCV will be increased soon, more for the delivery service and the fuel cost increase. So the commercial vehicle user wants to find out the alternative solutions to reduce the operation cost with long driving distance. So that's why this area, especially in China and the APEC market, the HCV will be increased together. And especially for about the two and three wheelers in China market is mostly number one. But you know the in Vietnam market is very good for the two and three wheelers, and the other APEC area also very big market for the two wheelers. So e-motorbike and or internal combustion engine based motorbike conversion will be expanded in this market. To reach up the current customer demand and the market demand, traditional automakers set up their electric vehicle policies and announce from time to time to catch up this kind of demands. So as you see in this graph, many of the automakers announce very frequently to catch up this kind of demand. So that's why if you can see in the 2021, just except the Hyundai and Kia and most of the famous automakers announced the new policies how to meet this kind of the requirement and the new trend of the industry. So many of the traditional automakers announced to make more electric vehicle or do not make any more about internal combustion engine, while they will make 100% zero emission vehicle from the promised date. For like the Volvo Group already announced they will make only for the electric vehicles from 2035. To catch up to this kind of demand, you know that it is very important to increase the charging infrastructures to meet this kind of the charging infrastructure requirement. So there are many charging infrastructures right now in the fast leaders. Like there are two kind of the charging systems, like fast charging and the slow charging. And the major three areas in China, Europe, and the United States, there are many kind of the many numbers of the electric vehicle charging systems, like in here and like in here. So fast charging services are usually used in the highway, rest area, shopping malls, sports stadium, or the public buildings. Since the driving distance of those vehicles are extended, now the super fast charging solution up to 350 kilowatt are populated in the various areas. And the traditional fuel station try to convert like energy stations and charging fuel and electricity in the same area in the same time. But you need to consider about the safety regulations in advance. This is an example of the PTT in Thailand. Now they are operating the electric vehicle charging stations in their fuel station area. And this graph shows the electric vehicle charging station numbers and the densities. If you see this graph, the South Korea in here shows the number one ratio, and that means that there are enough electric vehicle charging infrastructures when compared with other countries. This is an electric vehicle per charging point. That means that there are enough charging point when you compare with the electric vehicle, but we need to consider about the efficiency, because in some area there are many electric vehicle charging systems, but not much electric vehicle right now at current stage. So we need to consider about the efficiencies when you install the new charging infrastructures and the future demand as well. The right side graph shows the charging point for battery electric vehicle, mostly in the based on the light duty vehicle, like a passenger vehicle. You can see the some numbers and the ratios and the densities inside this graph. And especially for about the APEC markets, there are big countries, huge potentials in the near future. And first of all, in Vietnam government already announced that the uptake of the all EVs are listed in the national planning documents, and already announced and there new for about the new electric vehicle there are no registration fee from 2020 and until the 2007, and maybe extended. It depends on the situation. For about Indonesia, they already announced the 2 million electric LDVs and the 30 million e-motorbikes by 2030. To make these numbers realized, they support the tax incentives and easing charging infrastructure licenses. And there are some projects named Damri e-bus project, and they keep support about the public transportation and individual transportation into the electrified solutions. Probably Thailand also announced an electric vehicle promotive incentive packages in February this year, and includes the battery electric vehicle subsidy program and the tax and import duties discount. And there are many kind of the local battery electric vehicle manufacturing project, and especially for about the PTT already announced that they will make their own electric vehicle with the Foxconns from 2025. For what the Malaysia, there are also electric vehicle incentive packages announced in the budget 2022 by the government strategies, and full tax exemption for local battery electric vehicle and import and excise duties for imported battery electric vehicle. and 100% battery electric vehicle, low tax exemption, and incoming tax benefit for about the charging infrastructures. So, in the APEC area, the most of the countries who leading this business and industries already announced the good support and subsidy and incentive programs to penetrate into this market very high. So when you considering about the future electric vehicle market up to 2030, there are three kind of scenarios existing. The first number one in the left side is the standard policy scenario. That is according to the officially announced policies by each car makers. Here one, left one is by each car makers, and it is expected that the total volumes should be around the 200 million until 2030, and you can see the mostly it's BEV vehicles, and this one is plug-in hybrid, yeah, and mostly in the PLDV, passenger light duty vehicle, that means the passenger vehicles. And the second scenario, this one in the middle, is the announced pledges scenarios according to the officially announced policies by each countries. And according to this kind of scenario, it is expected that the numbers would be maybe 270 millions in up to 2030, and the numbers is slightly increased. But you can see the ratio of the BEV and the plug-in hybrid and the others is mostly same. So regardless of the numbers, this kind of the ratio and the density would be similar. And the last third one is the net zero emissions by the 2000. Oh, I'm sorry. The last one is the net zero emission scenarios by 2050. And according to this kind of the scenarios, this means to accomplish the net zero by the 2050, then at least 10 or 15 years before, there would be no more internal combustion engine sales, and all need to be changed to the electric vehicle with 100%. So in this case, the total amount of the numbers in 2030 would be 360 million, and there would be some gaps around 160 million between the stated policy scenario in the very left one and net zero scenarios. There are some big gaps inside in there. So we can expect the middle of the scenarios is reasonable as a potential in the near future. And there are some challenges as well, because right now there are some uncertain factors right now in here, and everybody does not 100% think about that electric vehicle is the game stopper. So there are some changes we need to consider. So there are big changes like in 6 area, and I can say to you from the one, and the number one is customer acceptances. Customer acceptances. That means there are lots of the different type of the electric vehicle with different area, with different situation, with different performance, and with different quality. So sometimes it can be very hard to satisfy all the customers, and even the Tesla Model S or something like that, and there are some quality issues still going on, especially in South Korea, and the other nations may be also similar. So it will be very hard to, if even those the brand power and the other software power is very good, but it's hard to satisfy the 100% of the customers. And the number one is the still lack of the charging infrastructure. Because the electric vehicle market is getting increased, but it will be sometimes very hard to increase the charging infrastructures for about like the public building and some commercial area, and there are some kind of the technical issues and some kind of political issues, some kind of the human issues. So it is very hard to increase the charging systems. So in some cases, we can using some the battery swapping system or the autonomous vehicle charging system, but still there is some obstacles and hurdles to increase the charging infrastructure with fast charging and the slow charging and mix it up. So it is one of the important factors, and how to increase the parking area and something like that. And the third one is the chip shortages. As you know that right now the electric vehicle customer need to be wait at least 6 months or 1 year because the semiconductor and the other chips, memories and something like that is very hard to get in the right in just in right time to manufacturing the vehicles. So we need to wait, and the cost is keep increasing. So and we need to have some find out a solution how we can solve out this kind of the chip shortages and integrate some chips in the near future. And the next one is the battery shortages as well. You know that to make the batteries, it takes very long time because there are some very long processing like forming, and the material of the batteries is very hard to get, and for like nickel and cobalt and the other materials, the cost is keeping increasing, and the lithium. So that's why we need to focus up the battery recycling and how we can reuse the batteries inside in there. And the next one is the low earth materials. You know that maybe you heard about the low earth materials, and mostly inside in the China, and they are essential materials to make the permanent magnets, like in essential factors and the materials in to make the motors. So when the electric vehicles get increased and increased, then the China is the most number one company that's because they have all most of the raw material inside in there. So we need to consider how there could be some impact if the China block down this kind of market, something like that, for example. And then last one is the ability to have multiple ownerships. That means that the internal combustion engine vehicle can reuse up to 10 or 10, 15 years. So that means we can sell to the next user, we can sell next users, and used car market is still existing. But we need to consider about the battery shortage and the battery life cycles. So in sometimes and just one user is enough to for the better performance and the reliability. So how we can extend this kind of the lifetime for the better vehicles is one of the key factors we need to consider to increase the electric vehicle markets. So as a final statement, to reduce this kind of the six challenges, you know that there are many challenges as well, but we can summary up these kind of six challenges, and there are some kind of the solutions how we can reduce this kind of the challenges. So there are four steps, and number one is the smart and flexible charging systems. So when you consider about the charging systems, just installing and the many kind of the charging system is not a good solution for the electric vehicles. So we need to consider about the smart and the flexible charging. That means if there is some cost of the electricity is very high, then we can save the electricity in the nighttime with the ESS system, and save the consuming and the cost in the daytime, something like that. And sometimes if uh, there is a vehicle already started in the charging and the finish, and we can sharing this electricity to other vehicles, and we can always we can consider about optimization about the charging, and to make this kind of system we need to consider about the smart EMS with the energy management system. And so that's why the charging infrastructure can integrate with the renewable energy solutions like a solar system and a wind generator or something like that, and can monitoring and control the outputs regardless of the lack of the electricity from the grid, something like that. And sometimes we can throw out the power from the electric vehicle and going to the grid, like a V2G, something like that. To make this, we can reduce the electrification cost and reduce the CO2 emissions also. And through the continuous battery monitoring, we can know how we can extend the battery life cycles, how we can control the resistance and the impact in the battery systems, and how we can increase the driving distances in winter time or the summertime. And after that, we can consider about the barrel recycling, and through the best barrel recycling we can extract the raw materials from the used battery like lithium and uh, nickel and the others, and reuse to make the new batteries. So through kind of these things we can use the cost and the CO2 emissions and the energies and the materials as well. So when you make the complete one-cycle solutions for the electric vehicle for the lifetime, then we can meet the real good situation for the electric vehicle market. So this is just explanation and the instruction about the electric vehicle market trend and some challenges. If you have any questions, please let me know, and if you have by email, then I respond to you. Thank you very much.